Today on Ballistic Barbecue, I'm going to be grilling up one rack of beef back ribs and one rack of bison back ribs on the Ironworks Santa Maria from Sunterra Pro Series. Let's get going. And here are those ribs I'm going to be working with today. These are the bison ribs and these are the back ribs. And these came to me from a ranch in Big Timber, Montana called Tangent Draw. Family-owned ranch, and they're proving that raising animals like beef and bison can be sustainable, so we don't have to eat bugs. These animals are free grazing on grass, and they're allowing the environment around them to regenerate. So it is sustainable. Anyway, I wanted to try, I've never had bison ribs before, and I actually had the opportunity to try a bison ribeye from Tangent Draw not too long ago, and we loved it. I cooked that along with a beef ribeye, and I have to tell you, that bison ribeye was way more tender and way more flavorful than I had expected. Because up until then, all I had had as far as bison's concerned is, ground beef, bison burgers. So I'm excited about this. Now you can see they're trimming these fairly small. I mean, these are literally the size of a pork spare ribs, like St. Louis cut spare ribs. The bison, you can see, is very lean. It's a darker meat, not as marbled. Now this beef rib, this particular rack of beef ribs, they cut this very close to the bone, which is pretty common with beef back ribs because there are some, bones shining through, but still a lot of meat between the bones here. Excited about this. First thing I'm going to do is pull that membrane off. Now on beef short ribs, I'll leave the membrane on because it holds the bones together, but these are literally the beef and bison version of a spare rib, so we can remove that membrane. The bones will not just fall apart. So I'm just going to do it just as I would on a pork rib. So that was pretty easy on the bison. All right, actually let me get these bone up first. I want to really taste the beef and the bison in comparison, so I'm seasoning this about as easy as it gets. We're just using some coarse ground kosher salt and fresh ground black pepper. Get the backs first. And pulling off that membrane, especially on these big animals like beef and bison, it'll just make for a more tender bite. Initially, I was going to stick a toothpick in like the bison just so I'd know the difference. But once I got them out of the cryovac, I realized, the bison is a little bit more meaty and a little larger, a little girthier, I guess. Let's get these on the pit. So as I mentioned, I'm using my Santa Maria today, and I have a nice bed of lump charcoal ready to go. Now, whenever I'm using lump charcoal on this pit, I'll always add a little wood for smoke. And I'm using, this is a wood called tan oak. And it's not something you'll see very commonly used in cooking. These trees, they grow in Northern California and in Oregon, and they were used by the Native Americans to cook. And there are a few very successful barbecue guys out there on the circuit that are using this kind of on the hush-hush. They're not telling people what kind of wood they're using, but this is tan oak. I'm really hoping to get some nice splits of this stuff because just a really, really nice, mellow, a little bit sweet smoke, but it's really, really good. So I'm just gonna toss this in here, and it'll burn, it'll ignite into flames, but the smoke will be very clean and it will help get some smoke on these ribs. So I'll be placing the bison ribs on the left as I'm facing the pit, beef ribs on the right, and we're using Sunterra's Versa lid. This is the perfect accessory for an open pit like this. as you can see, it's going to trap the smoke in there and also trap some of the heat in there. And it kind of turns this a little bit more into a smoker, and there's some convective heat underneath this lid here. So it's very cool. Other than that, what I'm going to do to control the heat is simply raise or lower the grates as needed. And I'll just take my thermopin and kind of hold it in here to see where I'm at temperature-wise. Before I do that, I'm just going to kind of let this get going here, let it heat up with that Versa lid on top, and I'll keep you guys posted on the cook. Okay, these ribs have been going about 35 minutes right now, and just so you know, I put my thermopin in here, and underneath the Versa lid, we're looking at about 220 degrees. I'm going to flip these ribs. Let's look at that color. All right, just gonna let them roll. Again, this is the temperature I'm looking to maintain, that kind of low and slow temp, and I'll keep you guys posted on the next flip. So we're in at about 2 hours and 40 minutes, and these ribs are probing tender, ready to pull. Now, the beef ribs, the meat is a little thinner than on the bison ribs. I just want to make sure that I don't dry out the ribs, but they're juicy. They're looking juicy at least. That is just gorgeous. So I'm going to allow these to cool a bit, and then we'll slice them up, give you guys a try. And here we are, all rested up. Now you can see there's a little bit of a twist here in the beef rib rack. I think it's just because, there wasn't as much meat on these bones as with the bison. That being said, I think the color on these is just really gorgeous. Beautiful, beautiful color. Let's go ahead and see what we ended up with here. Nice and tender. Definitely juicy. This is again the bison rib. Nice. Yeah. That is looking really good, really juicy. See where we ended up with the beef rib here. Yeah, still looks nice and juicy. So nice amount of meat on there. See what we flavor-wise. Again, just salt, pepper, and that smoke from the nice live fire. I'm excited about this bison rib. Again, never had bison beef ribs before, or bison beef ribs. Never had bison ribs before. There is that, there's two membranes, even on pork ribs, and you're hearing a little bit of a crunch. It's just that really thin membrane that's toasted up, but it's still a very, very tender bite here. Wow. It definitely has a different flavor than the beef. One thing I noticed about the ribeye I had, it still had that kind of a beefy flavor. This rib, this bison rib, definitely has a little bit more of a gaminess to it, like lamb. This is butter. I mean, you're getting that prime rib flavor. Wow. There's a lot more meat on these ribs than I was expecting. The meat, yeah. I wish there was more meat on the outside of the bones, but there is a lot of meat between the bones, and I'm happy. Wow. So here's my conclusion. Well, first of all, I love both of these. And I definitely want to do a video of bison ribeye because my whole family, we loved it. And like my wife, she's not into lamb, meat that has a little gaminess. I really didn't detect that gaminess with the steak. There definitely is a little bit of gaminess with the rib. And I don't know, maybe it was just that particular animal, but it's not that, because like I love lamb, but like mutton, like sheep, I'm not really into because it's too gamey. Lamb's not. And I would put this in the category as far as gaminess as a really nice, clean, like New Zealand lamb. It's good. You know, it's got a beautiful, beautiful color on that. Very tender, very juicy. If I had to make a choice right now, I would go with the beef rib, but I'm really enjoying trying these cuts of bison, and I'm looking forward to trying more like a bison brisket. All in all, I was very happy with the cook, always happy with my grill, very happy with the meat. Happy you stopped by. If you're not subscribed, please do. Make sure you ring the notification bell, thumb it up if you like it, and check out the links below. I have links for Sunterra and Tangent Draw. See you in the next video. Cheers.